This video doesn't have any big spoilers, only minor ones. Well, here we go. Knives Out, The Glass Donut. This was easily the most anticipated movie of 2022 for me, and while currently recording this, I still haven't seen it, but it is a movie that regardless of the quality, I will still talk about, as Knives Out is one of my favorite movies of all time. It is 1 out of 5 movies I've ever seen that I've actually given that 10 out of 10 rating. Its mysterious and threatening score, the cast being completely perfect in every way. If you like movies, then watch it since it's absolutely fabulous. I haven't watched any of the Rian Johnson movies besides this one, and honestly, despite all the hate Last Jedi gets and all his other projects get, I have doubts about it because this movie is so good I can't imagine him making anything bad. I'm gonna give this one a 10 out of 10. Anyway, Knives Out is basically one of my personal favorites and easily the best of 2019, so I'm just giving context to why I'm so excited to see this movie. So let's get into Glass Onion. Glass Onion stars Blanc from the previous movie finding a new case as he is invited to a crew of people going on a cruise ship to an island. Everyone else knows each other as they're all close friends, and every year their billionaire friend Miles plays a fun fake murder mystery game. Blanc goes with them, but once a body is found, he starts to realize that this is much bigger than just a game. The comedy of the original Knives Out is absolute gold. Every character in Knives Out all have at least one line that makes me laugh, except for the ones that were made to purposely not be funny. Characters like the two detectives, Ransom and Blanc.
Very nice.
Matter of fact,
Oh my God.
each. How's that?
Do
Fact.
not use that word in front of my son.
Each.
I
Each.
was
You idle! Don't
slap
talk
that
to your
smug
child.
smile.
Definitely. And all each.
They're some of my favorite characters for their comedy alone. Almost every line they deliver, from the donut
Donuts.
analogy and the will scene or the interview intro, are all fabulous. Now, no shocker, but I think the comedy in this movie was far weaker than the original. But I kind of went into it expecting it not to be as funny, so it wasn't that big of a surprise. There are some really funny moments though, like the big reveal and how mad Blanc is at everything going on, and him just breaking down all the killer's motives and all the puzzles he does randomly. It shows how smart he is. It's also really funny. Characters like Daryl are just comedy gold too. I think Blanc was the real star of this movie though. His humor and dialogue is fantastic and might even be better than the original, since he was made a lot more serious in that one, despite a few goofy moments. So as funny as this movie is sometimes, I still have major issues with the humor. Very minor spoiler warning here, but they actually have Among Us jokes in this one, which, like, I don't need to explain why that wouldn't work in a murder mystery movie. Sure, it kinda makes sense since Blanc is a detective, but Among Us is such a non-talked about topic nowadays. It just makes the movie far more outdated, and it was very cringe, obviously. There are a lot of COVID jokes at the start, which are all pointless to the overall story, since by the time they get to the island, they just ditch the COVID thing, so there was no reason to do that other than to make Blanc a bit more vulnerable to the new environment. But you could say he's just vulnerable because he is in a much more wealthy environment. These unfunny, cringy jokes make the movie feel much more outdated, and it's already a year too late. Comedy is very mixed in this movie, but I think it's pretty good overall, since the bad jokes aren't very often. Obviously, I don't need to explain why the cast of Knives Out is perfect. Every character of the family is memorable, from Richard to Meg. They all have plots throughout the story for comedy or to progress the plot along. This new cast is again not as good, but they're still amazing in this movie. I remember almost all of the characters because they're all pretty funny and pretty unique. Some characters were a bit stereotypical, like Duke or Whiskey, but they were very enjoyable. There are some characters that this movie straight up never mentions, like Peg, who gets like maybe 8 lines in the entire movie. I like the rich, semi-racist, semi-anti-masker. She was also really unlikable, but she was pretty funny anyway. The two partners for their company were also kinda generic, but they were rarely focused on, so it was okay. The name Glass Onion is kinda perfect for like how this movie works, with it getting deeper and deeper as we go on. The introduction of this movie, with it introducing all the characters, is also really good because it makes them all seem like great, nice people, because that's how the public sees them. But obviously, as the movie goes on, you can see them become more and more awful since they aren't in the public eye anymore. Also, they don't really lose anything by the end, which I think really fits, since it shows how even though they did some awful things, nothing really happened to them by the end, since they are in such high power and high praise in society. All the actors did an amazing job playing their characters, so yeah, I really enjoyed the cast. Probably my biggest issue with the movie is its pacing. The first half of the movie is mainly just the cast goofing around with some small tip-offs to what's going on, but this is just an hour of no mystery going on, so there's no real hook, there's no murder, there's no mystery. Knives Out is about murder and mystery, so there there's nothing really going on. The final half of the movie is when someone that I will not name dies, but then we get a bunch of twists during this time with a lot of flashbacks. So after that, there's only like 20 to 30 minutes of an actual climax left, which just isn't enough because of how amazing those last 20 to 30 minutes are with all the twists and the absolute madness going on. It's kind of like the Will scene from Knives Out, except a lot shorter. I just kind of wish instead of telling Among Us jokes, they could have made the actual mystery a lot more exciting and last longer. A massive turnoff of this movie is the intro, just because of the weird pacing around it. The original Knives Out was basically perfect with it introducing all the characters so well, but in this one they just have a bunch of annoying jokes and they don't hook you in since there isn't a mystery or any returning characters. I actually thought it was a trailer because of how disconnected it was from the rest of the movie. Okay, I'm gonna talk about the murderer now, but I'm obviously not gonna say who they are. Watch the movie for yourself to figure out who it is. I just think they were a bit too predictable. The moment I saw them, I thought, oh, they're gonna be the murderer, and it was them. I like how they do the exact opposite of what the murderer did in the original by being really good at making sure they don't do anything to incriminate them. The set design in this movie looks so amazing. The room with all the glass looks so nice, and the lockdown is also really funny and creative. Love the ending where everything is just in shambles. It's so cool. The themes of this movie are also really nice, like the Mona Lisa and the glass onion being really cool overarching themes throughout the movie, and it coming to a close in the end by using these two themes and making it really cool. This is probably the best editing of the year for me because of how terrifying they make everything seem. The first character death is fantastic with the slow build up of the music and the continued zoom in on the Mona Lisa's face as it gets more and more hectic. This is a minor nitpick, and if you want you can click off since you might not want to hear this last part because it's kind of a disappointment, I guess. But I wish they had at least one reference to the original Knives Out, which they didn't even bring up once, but I appreciate how they never try to reference it once to show that these two are barely connected. In conclusion, Glass Onion was a great movie with some pacing issues, but a great cast, great score, and I would say it's a worthy sequel to Knives Out. 8 out of 10. This is an epic outro. Also, I'm not doing Strange World because, one, I just don't want to watch it. I'll watch it at some point, but it will be on Letterboxd, so if you want to really see it, just like wait like 3 weeks and then go to Letterboxd. I don't think I'll have much to say about it. If I really do, then I'll make a video like 6 months later or whatever, but yeah, anyway, this is an epic outro. Goodbye.